Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, which is brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment is, never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. My name is Dave Raleigh. I am joined by Patrick Johnston of the province, who joins me as a special guest co-host today, with Harman Dial taking a day off. That Harman, you know how he is. Harman taking a day off. PJ joining me today.
Those guys, the Athletic, just doing whatever.
I'm glad you said it. PJ, because I try not to say it on this show, but I'm glad you said it. PJ, how's it going? Thanks for joining me today.
I'm great, buddy. I just baked some bread.
Sourdough. Now walk me through your sourdough. Like the starter. I don't do it myself.
Yeah.
I don't do it myself, as you know, with most of the cooking.
Well, you said something about the house. Sorry, does Victoria do it or?
Yeah, and her family. Yeah.
It's a real thing for them.
It's a big thing. Yeah. So explain to me starters. I don't understand the whole point.
Well, I didn't know. I mean, I knew it existed, but I didn't know it myself. My lovely wife Candace got me a bread baking book for Christmas.
Wow. Okay.
Although she didn't actually realize it was a sourdough book. But anyway, it's great. It teaches you how to make a starter. It's the power of natural yeast, David. So you basically get two different flours. You start with some bread flour. And I guess on this one, it started with some raw. Anyway, you get a couple things going, get some water. It's my starter's all, I think, 11 days old now. So you need to get it up to about 2 weeks. But I did bake some bread, so you got to keep testing. During the second week, you sort of test how strong it is. And mine's getting there.
That sounds complicated.
It is complicated, David, and I don't think you really want to get into it unless you really have to. But I've enjoyed it. It's been a nice little distraction to add to my life.
We did bagels. Well, I shouldn't say we.
She did. Well,
she did bagels. I watched, I smelled, I tasted. They were delicious.
Attaboy.
The bagels were so good. Homemade bagels. So good.
Impressed.
Okay, let's get into it. We've got a lot to get to. The chat is bumping early. People asking about last Thursday's Family Feud, which, by the way, we won. We won last Thursday's Family Feud. Speaking of the chat, let me tell you about our Super Chat charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation. You want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, hit us with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Hit us with a Super Chat. Nick Pochek, early in the chat. Nephew of Rudy Pochek, which we established recently. Yeah. I don't want to hear anyone ever complain about baseball talk if you're okay with bread talk.
No, there's no baseball talk though, because Harm doesn't know anything about baseball, does he?
Oh, you're funny.
Does Harm ever? Here's the real story would be if Harm ever got you guys into cricket talk.
We have talked cricket on this show. Did you know Harman played like provincial level cricket?
Did you know that Harman was a provincial U18 representative?
And did you know his dad was like a pro cricket player?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love me some cricket.
Yeah.
Back when the Cricket World Cup was on last year, I was into it.
Yeah. They figured it out.
I don't get cricket at all.
They figured it out. They play the short version of the game now, which is what everybody wants, where all the money is. They still do play some of the 5-day games, but tests, they call them. But T20 is where it's at. So 20 overs, so you get like 100. Basically, David, an over is 6 pitches. So 20 overs, 120 pitches. Feels like baseball, right?
Okay.
Except that it's a home run derby, nonstop. It's your kind of thing. You'd enjoy it.
Harman Lordrop says Broke Shinobi in the chat. I like it. And Cali Canucks said, Quads, no more bread talk, please. Okay. We'll wrap it with the bread talk. No more baseball. No more cricket talk. We've hit our criteria early on in the show. As I say every show, PJ, we've got a lot to talk about. So let's get into it. I was going to start with the Canucks' loss to the Carolina Hurricanes. It feels weird to start there, given how
Why don't you work it backwards?
Well, that's how we go. We start with that one, and then we go to the Leafs. We'll go there. But before that, I want to get to the news of the day, which, Philip Hronik, skating in Winnipeg. Look, this is a big addition for this team right now. He's coming back earlier than everybody thought, only by a couple weeks, but still earlier than we were expecting.
1 week.
Isn't it 2 weeks? We were expecting like February 1st, no?
I don't know what math people were doing, but 8 weeks from the injury is next week.
Okay, so people do 8 weeks from when they gave that update. You don't do it that way?
Well, I mean,
because they gave out the update.
I get it. No, I get it. But like logically, why? the injury, it takes such and such amount of time to recover from the injury. I guess people have never thought about the fact that it's from the injury. I mean, listen, they assessed him right away, right? I suppose with us, like regular schmoes, when we go see our physio or whatever, I don't know if you go do that, Dave, because you're a young man, but it's from the moment they're able to kind of figure out what's wrong with you. But like on a team like the Vancouver Canucks, a professional hockey team, they know almost right away. Like his assessment is right there. They're like, we think it's this. So they went around. They wanted to see if what they needed to do, how it was going to recover. Yeah, it was going to be end of January, I suppose. So if you really want to go, we're at 6 weeks. Like tomorrow is literally 7 weeks from the injury, and it's give or take 6 weeks from the announcement. Now, I think we're fair to assume at this point that it was some kind of separated shoulder, right?
Yes.
Which is a 6 to 8 week injury. So here we are. Like I guess it's so funny. People are so skeptical of the Canucks on every update, and they go and say approximately 8 weeks, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, they're not following the time." I'm like, no, they just gave it was an under promise and over deliver situation, I suppose, to the Canucks' credit for once.
There it is. To the Canucks' credit, Filip Hronek is back. Filip Hronek's a game-time decision for tomorrow's game against the Winnipeg Jets. He's a massive addition to this team. The conversation that I want to start with right away, Patrick, is when he's back, how do you configure that blue line? I don't think you can watch this team play for the last 8 weeks or whatever it's actually been that Hronek's out. I don't think you can watch this team play, especially when Hughes was out, but now even with Hughes back, and say, yes, the best place for Filip Hronek is on Quinn Hughes' pair.
Well, if you study carefully the videos and pictures that the Canucks posted to their social media today, you will see that it almost certainly is going to be Quinn Hughes and Filip Hronek.
Which I think is a bad idea.
Which, on the whole, I mean, I think you have to see at least. I went and I wrote a story about this the other day, David. Filip Hronek away from Quinn Hughes has been like almost everybody else away from Quinn Hughes. Not great. Now, when they traded for Hronek, there was a notion that maybe this was a guy who was ready to run his own pair because he ran his own pair in Detroit. The Red Wings were not very good. So the numbers for Hronek weren't great. But since he's been a Canuck, over the last couple seasons, almost 2 seasons now, away from Hughes, of which he's spent about a quarter of his time as a Vancouver Canuck has been away from Hughes. Not great. So there is some data that suggests no, but I'm with you. I think the short-term reality is they need to have more going for them because what they have going for them when Quinn Hughes is on the ice is terrible. 42% Corsi, right? Like that's a disaster. They need to fix that. And, Hronek, I think in the end, long-term, should be Hughes' partner because you should have found another defenseman. And this goes back to last summer, and we've talked about this endlessly. This is a team that has struggled to figure out what they're going to be, has struggled to put together this identity that Rick Tocchet talks about because their defense core is weirdly built. I said this to someone yesterday. Derek Forbort, who we've been ragging on, and I'm tired of watching him break the puck out. His numbers are still really good. Like, he's not getting crushed the way Eric Brandstrom was. But it's a problem. We know this. The way they want to play is not happening, and it's because the defenseman can't pass the puck. And Carson Soucy's been a disaster. Tyler Myers has been basically okay, but he shouldn't be there as one of your lead guys. He should be playing on your third pair. And Vinny Desharnais has been Vinny Desharnais. So, we know what the problem is. The problem remains. Hronek probably should be off that pair, but Hronek alone is not going to fix their problems.
Yep. I just think short term. Like, I think we will see it. Like, I don't think I need to bang the drum too loud because I think we're going to see it probably tomorrow if Hronek gets back. You're just going to see it that this team just struggles too much without one of those guys on the ice, and you're gonna like Patrick. What we're really talking about is Noah Juulsen in a top 4 role or not. Like it feels like that's where we're at, right? Or Tyler Myers on the Soucy pair, which we've seen, and we don't like that movie. Like Tyler Myers has been fine next to Quinn Hughes, and the way I look at it is, if you have someone at $3 million, Tyler Myers, who can play next to Hughes, put the $7 million guy on his own pairing and have a great top 4. Like, Ideally it works out that way. Ideally, I know it's not perfect. We can't force it to happen, but I would like to see that configuration at some point, a Soucy Hronek pairing.
Yeah, I think it's apparent that Susie is having a hard time. It looks like he's hurt. Like he just looks like he's skating in cement. He's having a hard time out there.
The decision making, everything.
Well, just everything. So I do wonder, a guy that's a good skater, a good puck mover like Hronek playing with him, could that revive Susie? I mean, Susie was such a good defenseman for them last year. A huge part of last year's story was his performance, which was over and above expectation. Like we thought he'd be a solid addition. He was better than anybody expected, and this year he's been worse than anybody expected. So I suppose maybe that just averages out into who he really is. I don't know.
I think it's somewhere in the middle. I agree with you. It's somewhere in the middle. You still have to go get a defenseman for this team if you actually
100%.
want to compete.
We know that. And they've known that since last season. That's something they've wanted to do since last season.
But it becomes an interesting conversation if they can't, really push themselves out of just wildcard 2.
Yeah.
Like wildcard 2 should be pretty, not easy, but the likelihood of the Canucks making the playoffs because of that spot are pretty high still. But you want to see them go snatch a spot in the Pacific. You do. That's what you want to see them end up. I don't know. I think this, you still need to see more before you go give up assets to go get another defenseman to help this team out. I think you do.
Can I just answer AE's question here quickly?
Sure.
Which Canucks media has the best arms? It's
Harmon.
It's not Harmon. It's not you. It's
Well,
Dan.
it's not me.
It's Dan Murphy.
Oh my gosh. Have you seen Murph's? Okay. Not to get too Murph gets enough compliments, but man, we took a photo at trade deadline. You know the photo of us in the Express toques?
Yes.
That popped up in my memories not too long ago.
Yes.
Murph's chest workout. I need to get it from him.
Yes. He's jacked.
Unbelievable. Yeah, no, he is. And he works hard. That's the thing. He works hard at it. When we were in Whistler, you remember, this is when I was at my peak physicalness. He texted me and he was like, "Hey, I found a gym right here." I was like, "I'm not going to the gym, Murph. It's all good, man. You take care." He found a gym.
That's why you lose.
What do you mean I lose?
That's why you lose. Murph wins because he found a gym, and you're like, eh.
Oh yeah, no.
Jacob, I should send you a video. There's a video I took of David years ago down at 8 Rinks, waiting for players to come out before their preseason skates, and David was doing his steps, and he's just walking around in a circle in a parking spot. It's an amazing video. People love hearing about descriptions of things they can't see. So
if you have that video, send it to me. I'll get it up in anyone else at the end of the show.
All right, I'll try what I can do.
There you go. Okay, so Hronek back. I'd like to see him off the Hughes pairing. But again, I misspoke earlier when I said it's a bad idea to put Hronek with Hughes. I think in the grand scheme, maybe it is. But we know that pairing together is pretty dynamite. And someone brought up a good point in the chat. I'd like to give credit. I can't remember who said it. But someone brought... Yeah, here it is. Karn, regular listener of the show. He said, "I think they keep Hronek with Quinn for his first game back just so he can get comfortably adjusted." I think that's fine logic. Just letting him kind of get used to the NHL speed again, getting used to the game again. I like that. I like that idea for Hronek. I do. So we will see. I think that's how they're going to go tomorrow, as you alluded to, Patrick, and then we will see where it goes from there. The other news of the day, Eric Brandstrom clears waivers. He goes down to the AHL. Don't worry, Patrick. I'm not going to make you talk about Brandstrom right now. I want to talk about that later, and anyone else, because someone early on in the show already brought up that my take that Brandstrom is the next Gustav Forsling is dying right before our eyes. We don't know. It's not over yet. Not over yet.
Come on. Be serious.
That my take's not dead yet, or are you saying be serious about my take?
Be serious about Gustav Forsling. Oh, my God. Eric Brandstrom is not Gustav Forsling.
Don't know yet. Don't know yet.
Come on.
Can't
you
know
don't
for certain.
know yet?
Can't know
Eric
for
Brandstrom
certain.
is how old? 26? 27?
26.
Be serious, David. Don't even bring it
moving
back.
on.
Don't even bring it back up again. I don't want to hear that again.
We're bringing it up at anyone else. Okay. Canucks lose to Canes. Let's talk about this, Patrick. And we're going to start here, and then we'll talk about the Leafs game. Really, these are two similar games, but obviously different games, because after the loss to the Canes, we see fire talk it. We see these players don't want it enough. We see this. We see that. We saw a lot of takes coming out of the Carolina game, and I think we would have a lot of them if the Canucks didn't shut out the Leafs the very next night. On the abbreviated travel and everything that they had going on against them, they come up and show up against the Leafs. But this loss to the Canes, let's break that one down first. What were your thoughts from that one?
It was abysmal. It was an abysmal game. I mean, listen, they fell behind against a very good team pretty early, although they played pretty well in the first period, but they still fell behind. And chasing the game is hard. And then there's chasing the game against a Stanley Cup contender like the Carolina Hurricanes, who don't let you have the puck.
Yep.
and they were tired, but they played smart. They did what in soccer we call park the bus, right? Like they just wouldn't let anybody get inside. I don't think they had a single high. I mean, did the Canucks have any high danger chances? They had what, it was just a miserable, abysmal, terrible game. And honestly, coming out of Friday night, going into Saturday night, I was like, I don't even know what, it was bad enough trying to write about a game as bad as that. You're like, oh God, what's going to happen here? And then they turned it around. But I think you want to talk more about Friday's game before we can talk about Saturday's game, don't you?
We will talk about Saturday. I just wanted to point out the thing that made it so tough to watch, and the thing that made it so, like, the reason you were seeing those huge takes and huge reactions was Carolina's 5th game in 7 nights. Dustin Tokarski's in goal. That was the 3rd shutout of his career in his 85th start. Like, you gotta put more of an effort than that. You have to get shots through. You have to do, and I get it. Like, I get that Carolina was playing that Canucks in the bubble against Vegas style of just laps on the home plate area, don't give up anything and wait for your chances, and the Carolina Hurricanes strike when they get those chances. I get that the Canes are a good team and that they're really good at playing tired, which is really what we saw. We saw a tired Canes team just knowing how to play tired, and the Canucks not really having an answer for it. I don't think we need to talk more about Friday's game. I did want to say I think Kevin Lankinen is the 1A. That's one thing I wanted to get out there.
Are we going to talk about the game tomorrow? Or can we talk about that, or are we waiting?
We're going to talk about the game tomorrow, but we'll talk about it in anyone else. We can talk about whatever we want on this show, Patrick. I'm done.
You tease Kevin Lankinen. Should he start tomorrow?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. Because he's the better goalie.
Okay, it's not because of the shutout.
That has to do with it too.
The shutout is proof that he's the better goalie. Is that what you're saying?
I think this year's sample size is the proof that he's right now the better goalie than Thatcher Demko.
Okay.
It's tough to listen to, or tough to hear. Hopefully not tough to listen to, but it might be tough to hear that the guy who is the runner-up for the Vezina last year.
Right. Ian Clark is texting you right now, isn't he?
No. I promise, but I will throw this out there, and I said this on, we did a crossover episode of Leafs Morning Taking Canucks Convo. Not sure if everybody heard it, but I did throw this out, and I don't want to go too hard with it because I want to talk. I would like to talk to Thatcher about it first. I'm sure he won't say anything, but I want to give him a chance to talk about it. I think he's changed his stance. I don't know if you've noticed this. I don't know if people are noticing
this has been talked about.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got to pay attention. Who's talked? Woodley? Did Woodley beat me to this? I haven't even talked to Woodley about it.
Who was talking about this?
Did someone already talk about this? Because I thought I was seeing things that nobody else was seeing. So I was really excited about this. But I wanted to do more math on it and try to figure out how different it is. I think he's more narrow, is what I think. I think he's more narrow in his stance.
No, I think this came up in the press box recently.
Okay, so I'm the first media member to talk about it publicly then, Patrick. This doesn't count.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay.
Good for you. Way to go.
Thank you. Well, I'm not going too hard on it. I don't want Taj to tweet. I don't want Taj to tweet about it. I don't want Buck Foston to be tweeting, "Oh my gosh, Quads is saying Demko's changed his stance." It's just something that I've noticed.
According to Quads,
Demko has drastically changed his stance. His career's over. No, not what I'm saying. Not what I'm saying. What I am saying is this idea that, he had to change things because of his knee injury. The fact of the matter is we're probably not going to get a real answer from Demko until the end of the year. If we even get that, he's not going to want to talk about this, I don't think. But I have noticed it looks like his stance is more narrow. Maybe I'll run this by Woodley. I'll run this by Woodley to make sure I'm onto something. But his stance looks more narrow. He's changing the way he's played. I don't know if that's the reason for the soft goals that have beaten him. Not that he let one in against Carolina necessarily, but I have noticed some changes in his game, and I wonder if it's just a comfort thing where it's, okay, he's consciously having to tweak something and change the way that he played that made him so successful last year. I'm not saying this in the sense of I think he's changed his game and it's over for him and he's never going to be able to play and get the results that he did last year. I think it's going to be an adjustment period, and I think that's all this is. I think it's just an adjustment period for Demko, but I am going to point out, and I am pretty comfortable pointing out, that I think he's going through an adjustment period right now where he has tweaked some things in his game.
You know what? I've just had it pointed out to me by none other than Jeff Patterson. Steve Valquette. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
He said it publicly?
He said it on recently on with Kipper and Bourne last week. And it was Ted the bus driver who drives me and my daughter. It's the bus that takes some kids from daycare to school. And we got to ride back to daycare with my 4.5-year-old Alice. And it was Ted before we drove away on, I think it was Thursday. He said, "Did you see this?" He showed me. It's Valquette talking about his stance. So sorry, David. You're way, way, way behind.
Well, the thing is, if Valquette's saying it, I feel better about it. So for those that don't know, Steve Valquette, creator of ClearSight Analytics.
You're doing this.
Oh, of course, yes. course, I like my victory lap. Steve Elliott, creator of Clearsight Analytics.
Old Ryan Beach tradition.
If he's noticing it, then I'm definitely noticing it, and I'm 100% on the right track. I wasn't sure. That's the thing. I like to run this by people before I throw this out there. I do think though.
Just so the chat people out there know, this is like Quads, and there's a chat that I'm sure people know about that we had in Quads, and one of our channels is we discuss food, and Quad posted the bagels as if he had made them. And then hours later has to correct, oh, no. Victoria made them. So this is classic Quads. Look at this. I had this idea that someone else already had. But you know what? It's mine.
Well, I'm the first one to say it on this podcast. So I'm taking that. On Demko, though, yeah, like I did want to talk about this. I do think it's just an adjustment period. I'm not saying that Lankinen needs to start every game, but it's just it's an adjustment period, as I think what we're seeing right now. And for now, you have to go to Kevin Lankinen because you need wins. I don't think this becomes a Lankinen starts 4 out of every 5 games, but like I do think he's the 1A in the 1A, 1B situation right now.
You going to say Corey's last name again?
Corey. Oh, I forgot how to say it. No, I can't.
McQuay.
It's not that. It's not that. No.
What is it? What is it, Quads?
I can't remember.
I had it right last time.
Okay, I don't think it's that.
You probably go McQuay or something.
McQuay. No. I'm gonna try. We've got a lot to get to, PJ. We've got a lot to get to.
Are we still talking about the
7-6.
Canes game, or are we moving on?
No, we're moving on. We're moving on to Toronto because
calling and planning. I think that's a decent question.
Yeah, how much of the stance change for Demko about the injury or an adjustment without Ian Clark? I don't think it's an Ian Clark thing. Do you?
It could be. I mean, listen. When when we first heard popliteus and I mentioned it to a buddy, he mentioned to an orthopedic surgeon friend of his, and his friend just started laughing. He goes, "That's a useless muscle." Now he did feel it. There's no denying that Demko felt it. Like he's discussed it. But my impression certainly is that it's not a functional thing. And it's not a pain threshold thing. It's essentially a comfort thing. I cannot say definitively it is not a change in what he's being asked to do for playing reasons versus physical limitations. So, but it's a good question, and certainly one that I hope David, when he sits down with Thatcher Demko, asks him just to clear the air all about.
I think that's like I said, like that's a end of season question that Demko probably skirts around and doesn't want to talk about.
Oh, no. God, no.
It's a fair question though about the Clark thing. I don't think it's Ian Clark's not here anymore and Marco Terenius is doing that. I think there's a lot of gray here, and I don't want to spout off, but I don't think Marco Terenius is coming in with his guy who finished as a runner-up to the Vezina and said, you know what? You know everything, the guy who I do everything very similarly to? Yeah, I want to change some things that he was doing with you last year. I don't think that's what's happening with Marco Terenius and Thatcher Demko. I don't want to go down this road too much more. This is something I want to talk to some people about, but I would be stunned if this is something where they're like, yeah, no, we don't like what Ian was telling you last year, especially if this is coming from Marco. Right. I don't think that's happening, especially look, at the end of the day, Marco and Thatcher know of each other, but they're building a relationship, and I don't think Marco starts that relationship off by saying, Thatcher, I actually want to change this, and then if he does not getting results, Thatcher says, okay, Marco, you got it. I really don't think that's what's happening. I'll just say that, but I don't want to speculate too much on this, but did want to at least mention that I thought Demko's going through an adjustment period right now. Karn in the chat said Valaket probably got it from Quads.
Don't butter him up. Quads doesn't need this.
Okay. Sniper in the chat said, it'd be funny to see Quads do an NBC Dateline sit-down interview with Demko. I'd love to do it. That'd be great. Sit there. What was the guy's name that hosted Dateline? Keith Morrison? Was that his name?
Yeah, Canadian.
Is it really Keith Morrison? Got that?
That's an incredible pull for you for someone who pays no attention to journalism.
No,
I'm
you know
very
what?
proud of you.
Well, I'll go through it. My mom really liked Dateline when I was a kid. I watched Dateline at way too young of an age. And then, okay. Anyways, Keith Morrison. Shout out Keith Morrison.
Keith Morrison was a cameo in Seinfeld.
I did not know that. I'm gonna have to, and I've watched all of Seinfeld. Where?
He's the Smog Strangler.
Oh, that's him.
He's the newsman at the end, and only as Kramer. Yeah, he's at the end of that episode because he used to be on local news.
That's phenomenal. That's so good. Okay, well, there's our Keith Morrison quota. We hit it for the week. We've got it. Okay, Canucks, Leafs. Let's pick up the pace here, Patrick. A lot more fun to talk about this game. Quinn Hughes, we're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about the Hart Trophy because Quinn Hughes turned in quite the effort. Now, we start this game with a goal from Brock Besser where Tyler Myers takes a shot on goal. I'm sure that was the message heading into that one was, guys, let's get some shots on goal. Tyler Myers does just that. Deflects one off of Brock Besser. And the featured image, we used this over at Canucks Army, so you can go find it. The featured image of Patterson's Point catches Brock Besser and JT Miller having quite the moment at the bench when Brock is high-fiving along the bench. I'm not sure what the conversation was or why there was so much laughter after that goal, but as immediately after the puck went in, you'll notice on the replay, Brock starts laughing. The guy, Meyer starts laughing, everyone is laughing as soon as they're celebrating that goal. And then you get to the bench and Miller's kind of like pushing Besser with this huge grin on his face. It's at CanucksArmy.com right now. If you go look, it's the featured image of Patterson's Point. If you see the photo, you'll know what I'm talking about. Canucks Army, you go to editorials, you'll find Patterson's Point. It's Miller like shoving Besser, and Besser has the biggest grin I've seen on his face in months. So something was going on there. Obviously, Brock playing with Elias Pettersson that night. PD slotting in on the top line in JT Miller's normal spot and doing a great job of it. He's another story in this game. But Quinn Hughes is who I wanted to talk about. You have that first goal, then you get two more where Quinn is involved. He scores one, picks up an assist on the other. He was involved on the first one, even though he didn't get a point. A Hart Trophy-like performance for Quinn Hughes in that game.
Yeah, doing everything he's been doing all season, right? Like the goal, I wrote about it on Saturday. The Kiefer Sherwood goal was just such an incredible example of what makes Hughes so outstanding. And here, the way he dragged the whole defense with him, turned Domi around, got him out of the spot he was supposed to be in, creating a space for Sherwood to set up. I mean, Sherwood obviously sneaking from the far corner, basically working through the seams in the Toronto defense. But it's just so casual. I watched it again, the clip the other day, or this morning, I should say, and just the way that Hughes attacks the space, gets the space, and then just casually just flips it back to, as if, oh yeah, here you go. All right, we're done. He is playing so out of this world. It's an absolute joy to watch, and it's been a true bright light to this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I had some numbers on Hughes I want to bring up. Jacob, if you can pull up my tweet here. I tweeted out, these are actually numbers from the Statsies, not me taking more people's work and repackaging it as my own. These numbers were brought to me by Michael Liu. Everybody should be reading the Statsies, but I wanted to highlight these. In that game, Hughes led the Canucks in expected goals for and expected goals for percentage. He was on the ice for 10 scoring chances for when the Canucks managed just 13 in the game at 5-on-5. So that means the Canucks managed just 3 scoring chances for without Hughes on the ice. Canucks didn't give up a single high danger chance with Hughes on the ice. It was in the center of the hockey universe, Patrick. Everybody was awake for it. Everybody that votes in the NHL awards was awake for it. It was a masterclass by Hughes in that game. And like you said, something he's been doing all season long. Like, this game wasn't really a surprise to Canucks fans, but the fact that he did it against a top team in the Leafs, when everybody's watching, nobody's really expecting much from the Canucks. I think that's the context that really matters, is he did it on a night when we were all kind of expecting the Canucks to not roll over, but to really struggle, given their travel woes, given that they played the night before and they played pretty poorly the night before. They came out firing, and Hughes was at the forefront of it all. Is
it fair to wonder about all the stuff these guys usually do in pregame? Like, is it just all nonsense? Like, they couldn't do their usual day of routines because they didn't get to the arena until, 2 o'clock?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I saw a lot of that, especially in the Canucks Army comment section, of being like, why, stop talking about it like it matters. Like, I go to work in the morning or whatever. Okay, I get it. But these are creatures of habit. They have their routines. And at the end of the day, they weren't able to do any of them. So I'm not saying, oh my gosh, these poor guys. But it is a total change of their routine.
It's a change of habit. Maybe the routines are nonsense.
And PD and Hughes, they both brought it up. Back to junior. They both looked at it as a positive. They said it was kind of fun going back to junior a little bit. No video work, probably. No
meetings. Just
no
go play.
Meetings. No morning skate. No media. Just Go out and play. And play they did. They played a great game. 3-0 victory over the Toronto Maple Leafs. I had notes on Quinn Hughes. Elias Pettersson. Let's talk about him, Patrick. A Selke-like performance. If Hughes is a Hart-like performance, a Selke-like performance from Elias Pettersson, completely neutralizing the top line of the Maple Leafs. So much so that teammates on the bench were heard yelling Selke at Elias Pettersson while he was blocking shots. Tocchet described his game as excellent. That was the best game we've seen from Elias Pettersson this season, and that was the most glowing review we've seen of Pettersson from both his teammates and from Rick Tocchet this season. It's one game, but PD was certainly feeling it against the Leafs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. He had a pretty good game. It was a funny Corsi game, right? Like the Canucks got actually badly outshot, but the point was that they forced the Leafs into doing stuff that the Leafs didn't necessarily want to do. And there were very few shots from the inside overall from the Leafs, but especially against Pettersson. Pettersson did a great shutdown job. It was a classic shutdown game from one of their key players, and we've known that this is a great two-way guy, and that he does things all over the ice very well. I mean, I cited it in my story, which was, years ago. I asked him, well, people have noticed how hard you try to, you work on the back check. And he says, well, I don't like not having the puck. I want to get it back. And this was the case in point of a guy that was just doing everything he could to take away what the other team was trying to do. And he did a masterful job of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we talk about superstar players, 11.6 million. He's going to get criticized for that all the time. I know if the point production isn't there. This is what you want to see as the baseline. You want to see, and again, maybe not a game like that where he's otherworldly defensively, and we're talking about it for as long as we are, but it's like close to the baseline. Like, yeah, you chip in with an assist, you play really, really solid defense. If he could do that on a nightly basis, nobody's complaining about that contract. But you want more too. You want to see more. You want to see the offense start to follow. You hope it's a starting point though, because that's something we know about Pettersson is just when he's going at that end, usually he starts going at the other end as well. So hopefully it's a starting point from Elias Pettersson. I think we can leave that there. On the Leafs game, Lankinen was great in that game. I already kind of alluded to it. Canucks in Winnipeg tomorrow. We're going to break that game down tomorrow, but I would be kind of shocked if it's not a Kevin Lankinen start, especially with the 2 days off that the team had since their game against the Leafs. I'm 100% starting Kevin Lankinen in this game.
They've been going with the rotation, Dave. The rotation has generally been working. If you're picking him because he got a shutout, that's the wrong thinking. If you're picking him because of the reasons you just laid out, that he's been the best goalie for the Canucks, on night in and night out, I'll buy that argument. But right now, the point they've basically laid out is that they want to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. To me, what really matters is what they're going to do in front of them. Whoever is playing in goal. I mean, listen, the results in the end for Demko have not been great. What is it, 2 wins? Is that right?
Yes.
And that's mostly not his fault. Mostly the play in front of him has been pretty poor. And that, to me, is the story, because there's been a lot of poor nights in front of Lankinen. I mean, it's not been a team that they've not been a team that's been winning games because they haven't needed their goalie, right? Almost every night, almost every one of these wins, they've needed their goalie because they're not getting a ton of shots or what have you. So, listen, I'm of both minds. I think they should just stick with the rotation, because the truth is, like I said, what really matters is what goes on in front of the goalie. And you need Demko to get on track, right? Like, you don't want to start ditching starts from him because Lankinen's going to show up. Like, he's been consistent. He's had a few nights that have been stinkers, but that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Demko just needs to find a way to get to that next level, and maybe that's part of him figuring out this new stance. But either way, to me, this is a big test. The Jets are a big team. It's the kind of challenge that Demko relishes, and I think from that standpoint, you give it to him.
Okay, we'll see. I'm curious what the chat thinks too. That's our question for anyone else. That's our question that I want to see what people have to say. But let's dive into another topic as we talk about the Leafs. Canucks, Quinn Hughes, and the Hart. Hughes for Hart. We saw it trending. We saw it all over Twitter. Hughes for Hart after that game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. PJ, we were talking about this and made the point that Hughes has been doing this all season, but it was nice for him to do it on that stage with the context of what the Canucks were facing heading into that game. Hughes for Hart. I was really curious about this, so I just wrote about this at Canucks Army. It actually went live at 2 o'clock today on Monday. I wrote about this. Hughes for the Hart. Is it going to be something that actually happens? Is it just some fun hashtag that we all get to tweet out and say about 6 times, as I already have in this segment? I tried to size up the competition. So I looked around the league and just, looked at who are some of the names that are out there. I sent out a mass email that you were actually a part of, but you're not part of the final 11 tally, to try to figure out how people are going to vote. So I asked about 20, but I went with 11 because I only had 11 at the time of publishing. I went with 11 responses from people, and I used the proper voting format of first place gets 5 points, second place gets 4 points, third gets 3, and so on and so on and so on, to kind of put together the Hart Trophy race and see how it looks right now. So I have 11 voters, okay? I have 11 voters that I pulled. I want to go over this data with you and get your take, and then I also want us to give our Hart ballots as 2 guys who voted on the Hart Trophy in the past and probably will this year as well. I want to get to these. This was the results, basically. So the big 4, as I like to call them, you've got Leon Draisaitl, you've got Quinn Hughes, you've got Nathan MacKinnon, and Connor Hellebuyck. Those are kind of the big 4 that we're going to see. And shocker, in this order, this is who my anonymous poll that I did with 20 people, but these are the 11 results that I actually put together. It was Leon Draisaitl with 55 points, which, by the way, means that every one of those 11 voters had Leon Draisaitl at number 1 on their ballot. It was Nathan MacKinnon at number 2. It was Quinn Hughes at number 3. It was Connor Hellebuyck at number 4. And it was Kirill Kaprizov at number 5. MacKinnon picking up 37 points. Hughes gets 28. Hellebuyck, 25. Kaprizov, 9. Hughes, and I know Canucks fans want to hear this, Hughes got 0 first place votes, obviously because everybody voted for Draisaitl, 2 second place votes, 5 third place votes, 2 fourth place votes, and 1 fifth place vote. So one person didn't have him on their ballot at all, but he is getting some love for the Hart. But right now, what this exercise kind of told me was that he's going to have to do a little bit more. He's going to have to, and again, it's not even, Hughes needs to be better or anything like that. It's just the season Draisaitl's putting together right now. We were talking about it before the show started. Playing with Vasily Podkolzin as his most common winger at 5-on-5. Really, the big story, Patrick, is that he woke up and actually decided to play defense this year, which ultimately is why I think the Oilers might win the Cup, is that he is playing defense this year and he's doing it at a really high level. The defensive involvement was never there in past years for Draisaitl. It's there this year. He's putting up the points. He's already got 31 goals. He leads the league in even strength goals by a wide margin. And again, he's playing with Vasily Podkolzin as his main line mate. Draisaitl is on another level this year, and this poll suggests that it is Draisaitl's award to lose at this juncture at the halfway point in the NHL season. So again, this might not be Hughes just needs to play better as much as it is it's going to be hard to take down Draisaitl with the season that he's having.
Well, I'm going to go to bat here a little bit for Vasily Podkolzin, for one. Do you know who is fourth in points per 60 on the Edmonton Oilers?
Would it be Vasily Podkolzin?
It's shocking, I know, but it's Vasily Podkolzin. He's not playing a ton. Listen, let's be clear. He's not every shift with Draisaitl, but when he's on the ice, he's doing well. Like, he's played well. He's been a useful contributor. He's been you want him to be a star. He was drafted to be a star, but he's being a quality, competent NHL forward. He's being the guy that Canucks was hoping he would be. It just wasn't going to work out here. Anyway, the thing about Draisaitl, and I find this fascinating because I've thought about giving him a Selke vote. The idea that he did not play defense before the season, I think it's more that he's kicked it up a notch, and is the story of why he's been this horse. I mean, the Oilers are such an incredible team, obviously, because they have these 2 superstars, and it's a bit of a people are, well, they only win because they're when they're on the ice, and I'm like, yeah, but that's the point. Like, I get that the depth is not always necessarily amazing, but they're a team that go where their horses take them. And Leon Draisaitl, the way they're playing, that is a team that is clearly in the Stanley Cup discussion. And it's because of him. And it's because, I mean, I'm still blown away that Connor McDavid got no votes at all top 5. Like, I get it's challenging. You list off the names. It's ludicrous to me to not have him in the conversation. It is a statement about how strong the sort of contenders are, and partly because Hughes has raised his game so much, right? Like Cale Makar has a case to be in the mix too. I don't think he's not a winning case, but he's a case to be in the top 5 vote. And Connor Hellebuck deserves to be there, and then there's Kirill Kaprizov, and then there's Kucherov, and then, there's all these guys that are playing outstanding, and it is an incredible time to be a hockey fan. I really think that. I know people kind of get on whatever things about the game here and there, but it's an incredible time, and a lot of it's because offensively things are as good as they've ever been, and a certain, well, unless you're watching the Vancouver Canucks, but in general across the league, this is an incredible time to watch top end talent, and there's a lot of it, and this vote speaks to that.
Now, I don't know how you go about your ballot, but with the definition, the player deemed most valuable to his team, my rule, I will never have teammates on my ballot. I will never put McDavid and Draisaitl on a ballot. I will never put Makar and McKinnon on a ballot. I just think it goes against the spirit of the award. The player most valuable to his team. There can't be two most valuable to their team. The player deemed, listen to the definition. The player deemed most valuable to his team. To me, that is one player. You can't have Elias Pettersson. You can't have Quinn Hughes. Not that Elias Pettersson is playing at a Hart level or anything like that, but no matter who the teams are, and I know Oilers fans hate me for that because I brought it up in the past, and I'll defend it to the death. I won't vote for teammates for the Hart. You won't see 2 of the same teammates on my Hart ballot. I don't think that's how the award should be voted on. Not that I think people are doing it incorrectly if they go about it another way, but that's how I interpret voting on the award, and that's how I take it. I take it very seriously, obviously. I had Leon Draisaitl number 1 on my ballot, and it's for the reasons that I've already said. He's really kicked up his defensive game a notch. I personally, my personal opinion, watching him in past years, looking at his underlying numbers, he wasn't good defensively in past years, and I think it's held the Oilers back. Quite frankly, it has. And he stepped it up in such a big way this year that he might end up finding himself on my Selke ballot as well this year. Not that we're transitioning to a Selke conversation, but the fact that you're playing defense at a level that makes me at least consider you for the Selke. You are leading the league in goals. You are doing all of these miraculous things, and you're doing it with Vasily Podkolzin as your number 1 line mate. Some other guys, Kasperi Kapanen is his other line mate. He's doing it with guys that if they were playing in Vancouver, we would be saying, well, you need to get better wingers for Elias Pettersson than Podkolzin and Kapanen or whatever, right? The fact that Draisaitl is getting the results he is, that is the most valuable player on the Oilers this season. I think he's the most valuable player in the entire league this year. I am going with Draisaitl, number 1 on my half-season ranking, and I'll go through the rest of my ballot really quick. I actually wrote it down. The rest of my ballot...
I'm glad you wrote it down, Dave, and you're not just winging it off the top of your head.
I had Draisaitl. I have Quinn Hughes, number 2. I have Nate McKinnon, number 3. Connor Hellebuck, number 4. Kirill Kaprizov, number 5. Draisaitl, Hughes is the top 2 in my mind, and I would be willing to listen to McKinnon should be number 2, as most people in this anonymous survey that I did. Most people had McKinnon at number 2. I had Hughes at number 2.
I had meant to vote, but as I think I told you, I had a few things going on and didn't get back to you in time. But here's how I was going to vote, which would be Hellebuck, McDavid, Hughes, Draisaitl, McKinnon, which of course, apologies to Kaprizov and like I said, Kucherov and
Hellebuck number 1. Hey, Hellebuck number 1.
Where are the Jets without him?
That's great. That's a great take.
Right.
And I'm so glad you brought that up because in the article, go read it over at CanucksArmy.com. I went over Hellebuck's game when I was doing the competition. Hellebuck's having a better year save percentage wise. Did you realize Hellebuck's at a 928 save percentage?
It's nuts.
He won the Vezina last year. He's winning the Vezina this year. I think he's on his way. He can almost coast to another back-to-back Vezina Trophy wins. He deserves it, absolutely, I think. I have no problem with you putting Hellebuck number 1. I think that's a great take. Again, I think Draisaitl's on another level. He deserves to win the award. I think he ultimately will win the award, but Hellebuck at number 1 is absolutely defensible. I think that's a yeah, when you talk about the spirit of the award of most valuable to his team, the Jets are nothing without Connor Hellebuck, honestly. 928 save percentage. It's just unbelievable.
No Ovi. Give me a break. The guy can't move. He's just he's an exciting goal scoring story. I get it, but like his overall game's junk. Yeah. And in many ways, the Capitals are going to make the playoffs in spite. I know it sounds crazy, but the Capitals may make the playoffs in spite of him. As crazy as that sounds.
I love me some Ovi. He's like the 6th best forward on the Capitals this year. Yeah. And we saw it in the game against the Canucks. Like Ovechkin, those were the minutes that the Canucks started to create stuff, was when Ovechkin was on the ice.
And the Capitals had a great power play 15 years ago. Like, and they had like him shooting from that same spot. Like, the number of shots that don't go in is astounding. Go look at his numbers. The guy fires and fires and fires and fires. But, like, that power play has not been... I mean, they won this 6 years ago. I don't even know. 7 years ago? When did they win the Stanley Cup? Was that 2018?
2018. Yep.
7 years ago now. Like, he was a fantastic league-leading player. And he's, in terms of goal scoring, a great story. In terms of off-ice, he's a horrendous story. But... here he is, but he's not an MVP player. I get why there's buzz, because of course he's chasing the great one, but an MVP season this is not.
Okay, one thing, the chat's mad at you, Patrick. McDavid over Hughes, McDavid over Draisaitl. Walk me through this Connor McDavid love.
I'm sorry. Connor McDavid's the best player in hockey. Like, what do you?
He's not even the best player on his team right now.
Who draws the big assignments, Leon Draisaitl or Connor McDavid?
Connor McDavid,
serious.
because he's playing with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and not Vasily Podkolzin and Kasperi Kapanen.
You guys are crazy.
No, I think it's a
Connor
fine
McDavid
take.
Shut up.
It is
Stop.
a fine
Stop. Connor McDavid is the best hockey player any of you will ever see in your life. You're never going to see anyone better. Full stop. Done. That's it. I'm not talking about this anymore.
Okay,
grow up, all of you.
We'll leave it at that. Okay, yeah, make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, folks. We will leave it right there on the Hart Trophy conversation. Okay, let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you by our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. Come on down for a thrilling evening presented by Fountain Tire as we watch Vancouver take on Edmonton on January 23rd. There's going to be exciting giveaways, including hockey tickets, signed memorabilia, and jerseys to be won. Doors open at 5 p.m. and puck drop is at 6 p.m. Each ticket grants you access to all the action, and it's all in support of one broken biker. 10 days away, folks. Get your tickets, $10 over at nationgear.ca. We want to see you there. Don't miss out. We saw so many people the day after the event. When we were talking about the event, they said, "Oh, we heard about the ad read and you talked about it, but we didn't realize when the date was." I say the date, I think, in every ad read that I do. At least I think so. So people were like, "Oh, well, I was meaning to buy a ticket, but I was waiting, and then the event passes you by and you miss out." So don't miss out. Make sure you go get your ticket. nationgear.ca. You might see me do a live hit on Rinkwide once again. Patrick, you were co-hosting that episode of Rinkwide when I did.
Yeah,
that was BC election night too.
Oh,
there was a lot going on that day. That was great.
David, I just want to admire your passion. You were as passionate about people not paying attention as I was about people forgetting about how good Connor McDavid is. So bravo.
Okay, then why doesn't McDavid win the Hart every year? I'm sorry.
He should.
Sorry. No, he shouldn't.
Wayne Gretzky.
He shouldn't.
I don't want to say anymore. Okay. Go look at it. Literally, I mean, Jacobs mentioned it. Eddie Shore won it like Bobby Orr, like Wayne Gretzky. Like, these guys won it year after year after year because back in the day, people weren't precious. And they go, "Oh my God, will everybody feel okay?" No, he's the best player in hockey. He should win it every year.
Okay. I honestly, because
you soft zoomers.
Because he's not even close in my mind in being, like I said, I won't vote for teammates, and I think Leon Draisaitl is the best player.
That's fair enough.
On the
I think you make a
year.
decent case, but I'm just saying he's the best player in hockey. He will.
Draisaitl has 31 goals. McDavid's got 16. He's got 16. Most valuable to his team, Leon Draisaitl. No. Let's put it this way. If the Oilers lost Leon Draisaitl right now, Derek Ryan's their second line center. And if they lost McDavid,
if Connor McDavid gets hurt, Derek Ryan's their second line center. What's your point?
Because Draisaitl goes up and does fine. He fills in fine for McDavid. And anyways, it's Draisaitl. It's Draisaitl this year. We'll see We'll see. Draisaitl this year
Incredible.
in my mind. Anyways, okay. I didn't want to bring that back up, but the chat is not letting it go.
But before we get to anything else, I have the video that PJ
Oh,
mentioned
there we
earlier
go.
of
Oh,
Quads
good.
just pacing
Jacob,
around
the real
the Ritz
MVP.
parking
There we
lot.
go. Yeah. This is Quads waiting for Alex Chason.
Was I not on the phone or something? I was just
No,
walking.
you're just
just walking.
You're just walking around, Dave. You got your water. You're just getting in your steps.
Those are the most comfortable shorts I've ever owned. I'm not gonna lie to
They
you. Those
said
are my
NASA on them.
Yeah, my
they were-
orange
I was
NASA
just perplexed with them.
I
Next time
actually
I'm on,
think-
I'll send the photo of you with the pose that you were making while you were interviewing Alex Chason.
That's my Instagram profile picture, actually. I love that photo. And the one of me interviewing Marco Terenius. Do you remember that one? We were matching. You're in that photo, actually. But Marco Terenius and I were wearing the exact same outfit. Dark blue jeans and a black t-shirt. And I was interviewing him, and it looked very funny.
Those were the days. All
Faber
right.
probably took that photo. Anyways, okay. People are not having it with your McDavid love in the chat. I'll tell you that. I will tell you that. You got to read this chat, PJ. People are
I
not
gotta go.
having it.
I'll
I gotta read you this one. This one from Sniper. Patrick, PHWA chapter chair, I might add, because he said, read the definition of the award, which I'm sure you know the definition of the award. He said, the Hart Memorial Trophy, originally known as the Hart Trophy, is an annual award for the most valuable player to his team in the National Hockey League. Did you know that?
Yes.
Well,
That also means the best player. Period.
no, it
Because the
doesn't.
best player in the game, by definition, is the best player to his team.
So if the Oilers were like a bottom feeder team,
I'm
but they had
trying to
Connor McDavid-
imagine, David, I'm trying to imagine a universe where the team does not benefit from having the best player in the game on their team.
I'll tell you this, and I'll make it about the Canucks. If the Canucks miss the playoffs, Quinn Hughes isn't number 2 on my Hart ballot. He's not. If the Canucks miss the playoffs, I'm not putting Quinn Hughes on my Hart ballot at number 2. He might
not
slot
his
in 4th or
fault.
5th. No, it's not. But that's not how the award works. Okay, if you're most valuable to your team, but they miss the playoffs, who cares? Like, what are we talking about?
Unbelievable.
That's how I read the award. Valuable.
That's fine, but it's still unbelievable.
Okay. Let's move on. Is there anything else? Oh, yeah, I had a couple things that I wanted to get
There's
to.
a bunch of stuff in our private chat here that you can get to if you need.
Okay.
If you need anything, Quads.
Yeah, this one from Nick Poshek. Let's get to this
Yeah, I was
one.
just looking at that one.
Is shutting out the Leafs in Toronto on Hockey Night in Canada potentially the best possible regular season result from a vibes perspective? Media and fans have been pretty positive all of a sudden. Okay.
Yep. I mean, yes, but media and fans don't play the game. So it's good for people watching, absolutely. But the players matter at the end, and that's a tough one to read. This group has been a tough one to read all season. The vibes will turn for the players when they start racking up wins. They haven't been racking up wins. It's been a tough road trip. You know, they played well enough in Washington, I guess. They played okay in Montreal. You know, games they lost in the end in overtime, games that they could have won. If they win those games, are the vibes any? You know, like to me, that's what matters. I get what I get what Nick's point is, but in the end, they're good for fans and they keep interest up. Sure.
It also helps, I think, to turn down the noise for the players. They're not going to get social media messages. Not that they should be looking at those, but it also, you hear that selkie stuff. You hear about the vibes in the locker room. Like, that's going to help.
Sure.
That's going to help.
Sure,
I have to get to this one. I promised you we would drop the Hart thing, but you'll have an appreciation for this. This is from Bradley McRae in the chat. I'm 92. I've seen Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, Gordie Howe, or the Rocket, Beliveau, and Lafleur. Speak for yourself, PJ, when you said he's the best player that any of us will ever see, talking about Connor McDavid.
Fine, I didn't expect that. Shout out to you. Yes,
Bradley,
I bow to you. I bow to you, sir. Yes, fair enough.
92-year-old fan of Canucks Convo.
Serves me right
that
for
is the
thinking I'm
best
talking to a
thing.
bunch of quadzes out here.
That's right. Yeah, it's not all Zoomers.
Serves me
It's not
right.
all Zoomers. That's the thing. And you know what? Huge shout out to Bradley. Bradley, if you can get in touch with us, we want to send you some merch. That's
Some
amazing.
bad news. I was
What?
joking. He's not actually 92. He's just come clean in the chat, Quads.
Wow, but he has an old man as his profile photo. Oh wait, no, never mind. That's not an old man. That's okay.
It's a good
Sorry,
joke
Bradley.
while it lasted.
It is a good joke. Anyways, 92 would be crazy. That hurt my feelings that was a joke. But anyways, okay, moving on. Okay. No, I want to drop this. I want to drop this Hart conversation. People are not having it. People are not having it. But
I like this EP. Was it LC 250? His question
Yeah.
about Petey's wingers. Yeah, like listen, GT. I mean, I went and wrote a bit about this yesterday on.
Wait. Sorry. You have to read the question. People on podcasts.
Should EP40 be deployed as such moving forward with the best wingers to match up against the top lines? JT doesn't seem like he can do that anymore. PD was doing that when JT is out as well. I mean, yes, if you're looking for the true two-way center, it's always been Pettersson. I was surprised when I wrote about this on Sunday morning, going and looking at how Miller's season actually has gone, and it's actually been not bad, even though he hasn't been putting up points. The Canucks are a weird team, man. Like Dave, you and I know this, but a lot of it's about the finishing. If they were finishing better, the narrative on this team would be a lot different. But also the vibes have been weird. So Miller, I do think that LC 250, your idea is spot on. Like I think in the end you do make the Pettersson line your true two-way line, and you let Miller just cook as an offensive player. Like he still is the best passer on the team, and when he's just thinking about offense, he's always been so much better. I think that's the way to go. Absolutely.
What do you make of Pettersson's post-game comment where he talked about when it's my time to step up for the team, or when I'm asked to step up for the team? Like that's what he was talking about, was playing those matchup minutes, and he said he always wants to come through when it's his turn to step up. That's what I read into that, at least.
Well, yeah, and I mean think about Bruce Boudreau, like talking about wanting to be penalty killing player and stuff like that, right? Like that was a thing that was there, that when he's been on, he's put his hand, and he's ready to put his hand up. I think when he's not always been on 100%, it's because of, whether he's been dealing with something or just there's been a mental aspect to it. But in the end, I mean, and Boudreau talked about this. He seems to be doing quite the media rounds. He talked to Ben Kuzma recently. He's been on a couple podcasts. Pettersson deep inside wants to be the best guy. He wants to beat the guy. I think, it seems like maybe there's just a bit of needs to figure out how to kind of verbalize that a little bit better or something. I don't know. Or listen, I mean, talked a bit about it last year when he was struggling down the stretch. He said, listen, there's a lot of people trying, that are here to talk. He's a different cat. He marches to his own band. He just needs to, I think, like he said himself, like you just said, when he's called upon, and maybe just, to look at your pal Leon Draisaitl, just go and do it. That's part of the Draisaitl story, is that he's always sort of, I'm going to just, if there's ever been a criticism of him, and I have a hard time criticizing him as well, like here's a guy that in the end has basically looked at the moment and said, I'm going to go do this, right? And I think Pettersson definitely needs a little more of that. But when he has games like he had on Saturday night, it's good to see that he can do that, because that's when people ask me, is he going to be okay? I'm like, yes, I think he's going to be fine, because he has pulled it together so often in the past, and he's been almost always really good. It's just the last, 9-10 months have been really, really weird for him. And I think they're the outlier, and I think he is the guy that he was on Saturday night. Yeah,
and the offense is going to follow when he has games like that. Let's wrap this up, PJ. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day, which is brought to you by, you guessed it, Bet365. Going with the Calgary Flames. They're the favorite tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks. We are taking the Flames because we're tracking these now, so I got to be smart. Wagon Flames, take it. Flames are minus 160 on the money line against the Blackhawks at plus 135. So minus 160, Calgary Flames money line is our bet of the day. Brought to you by Bet365.
Flames hockey team. Let's go, Calgary.
Brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, is never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. People really liked today's show, Patrick. We got what a show, boys, from Nar in the chat. People had a good one today. People liked this show today. So Patrick, thanks so much for taking the time to join me today. I appreciate you being on the show and giving your incorrect Hart Trophy takes.
You're a good kid nonetheless, David.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay, so for my co-host Patrick Johnston and our technical producer Jacob Lazar, my name is Dave Rugelli. We will see you tomorrow, folks. Thanks for spending your Monday with us. Thanks so much for this episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.